Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, likes, and comment. We appreciate it. Okay. So here we are. This is it. Deontay Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne 2. There's a lot of things I have to address before I actually get into my breakdown video. And here it is. There's a sickness across the YouTube community, I think, in my opinion, that it's become quite apparent when there's agendas, i.e., one fight A wants one fighter to fight another fighter, the agenda being this time Joshua to fight Wilder. That seems to be the agenda at the moment. Joshua Wilder. That's what everybody wants to see. And you know, I want to see it too. But I understand how boxing works. I understand about boxing marketing. I understand where Anthony Joshua is. And I understand where Deontay Wilder is. I appreciate those things. A lot of people don't. And until that fight happens, nobody really cares about whom they face in between that, which again is understandable. What is not understandable, and in my position as being a media outlet, what is not understandable, and what is quite sick, is when you go across the YouTube community at the moment, and you hear people say, "Oh, Deontay Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne," and then they go on to tell you about why they don't like the fight, and say to you that Deontay Wilder is going to win the fight by knockout or is going to win the fight easily, and that's that, without actually a breakdown as to why. And if you're somebody looking across YouTube to get kind of like a non-biased perspective, or to look at things and to weigh up all the pros and cons, you're not going to get a lot of that with this fight. Because if you look across the YouTube galaxy, you're going to see a lot of pro Deontay Wilder or pro you know, or anti Stiverne, pro Wilder sort of talk. Now I am going to be as non-biased as possible. It's difficult for myself because, of course, people know that I have spent time that interviewing Stiverne, but it's not like I haven't interviewed Deontay Wilder before, because I have. And I just get the people that I can get at the time to get the interview. Stiverne's made himself available. I've been speaking to Stiverne for years now. Some people seem to have a problem with it. That's their problem. Stiverne's not the only person I interview on the channel. But like I said, there's a few things I want to get off my chest before I move on with it. The else the thing is with this video, if you haven't heard my previous video, fandom and treating some fighters favorably, and like in God status, you can't talk badly about their fighter, you can't criticize their fighter, even if they've got huge flaws. You can't talk about them. Well, I'm going to talk about them, and I'm going to address them on the channel, because that's just the way I've been. It's not just now I've been doing it, I've been doing it for years. Logical breakdowns. I might not get it right all the time, I might not get it right some of the time, but the fact I'm giving you a logical reason and explanation as to why I think a fighter can win or can lose a fight, or how they win and how they lose, is say I'm taking the time to study both guys. I'm taking the time to look at both guys non-biasedly, look at both guys and give them an opinion, give an opinion as to what I think their strengths and weaknesses are. I think that's a fair assessment to do that, to give both guys props where they've done well, and to give both guys slack where they haven't done so well. That is the way I see it, as best as you can. And a lot of people, and I'll challenge you, you go across YouTube at this minute in time and you look across the YouTube community, you'll see a lot of people bitching, moaning and whining about the fight. Look, if you don't like the fight, two things: don't cover it on your channel, and B, don't talk about it. If you don't like it, don't talk about it, or have little or nothing to do with it. Don't watch the fight, don't talk about it, don't review it, don't say anything, because you've made a decision that the fight is going to be crap and it's going to last a few rounds and that's it. Don't watch the fight. Don't watch the fight. So that's my opinion to you. And, you know, if you're going to be a media outlet, at least try and be as non-biased as possible when doing your reports. Anyway, now moving on. I've got my little rant out of the way. And also, no matter how many times you hit the dislike button on my videos, I'm still going to do the videos, and I've been doing them for years. And you know, it's not going to stop now. So you can dislike all you want. It isn't going to make much of a difference. Just a little message out there. Now, I've done all of the groundwork. Now we can get into talking about this particular fight. Deontay Wilder, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. In some ways, I kind of feel sorry for Deontay Wilder. He's got the most prestigious belt in world boxing. He's got the Holy Grail, despite what Joshua's got, the WBA and the IBF. He's got the WBC belt. He's got the belt that everyone in heavyweight boxing really wants to get, the WBC belt. Regardless of the WBC's some of course ludicrous decisions making and questionable ranking systems, people still have the WBC belt as the belt. And despite being the champion, Deontay Wilder, I don't feel he's had the exposure that he really should have. Fighting Alabama, just being able to sell out crowds in Alabama is not great for an American heavyweight. Whether that's because of the climate in America, whether it's because of the character of Deontay Wilder, whether he's not sellable, maybe he's like Marmite, you love him or you hate him, I don't know. Maybe he needs a crossover fight. I don't know. But there's a problem. It's a big problem. And it's sad because, heavyweight champion of the world, Vladimir Klitschko wasn't as exciting, as my opinion, as Deontay Wilder. Vladimir Klitschko didn't have this sort of character that Deontay Wilder had. Vladimir Klitschko was a big puncher, yes, but the sort of knockouts that Deontay has been giving us have been quite dramatic. Okay. However, technically, Deontay Wilder isn't the best heavyweight in the world, technically, but he does have a brutal right hand. And if you want a reminder of that, just look at what happened to Gerald Washington. Even if the Spilker fight, any fight you look at with Deontay Wilder, you could be doing what you want, and then he can short circuit you with that one right hand. He's got that X factor with that right hand, and everybody knows it in boxing. And that's one thing you'll give Deontay Wilder. Wilder is his own brand with Bomb Squad. A lot of people refer to it as Bomb Squad, but Wilder is his own brand. And do you blame Deontay Wilder for the route he's gone, fighting the opponents he's fought? Is that Deontay Wilder's fault, or is that his handler's fault? Is that where Al Heyman wanted him to be, or is that where Deontay wanted to be? I don't know. Deontay Wilder's saying he's got a lot of things in the background that he's not happy about. He clearly doesn't want to fight Stiverne again. That's for sure. All right. And I'm tired of hearing, why Stiverne got in that position? The fight's happening next week, Saturday. Get on with it. Deal with it. So Deontay Wilder, for me, he's tall, he's long, he's fast-handed. He's got fast hands. He's got footwork's okay. If you stand in the right outside the range and allow Wilder to let that right hand go, you trigger that right hand, you're in huge trouble in the heavyweight division. He's got that one punch knockout power. But the same reasons why Wilder is so destructive are the same reasons why Wilder is vulnerable. Because you don't see Wilder knock people out with a left hook. You don't see Wilder knock people out with anything else but that right hand. And then after that, you get a fury of wild punches that come after that first right hand. Defensively, Wilder still doesn't know how to block the left jab. Up to now, he doesn't know how to block the left jab. He still pulls his head back from punches. And defensively, at times, Wilder jumps back from punches, leaving his hands in the air and leaving his whole body exposed. When your arms are in the air, jumping backwards, you've got no way of blocking yourself. And when you're in midair, you can get tagged. And when you land, you still got to get your hands up. It's a problem. There are problems with Deontay Wilder. So those are things that are major concerns for Deontay Wilder. And the chin is still a concern of Deontay Wilder. Now, I have to say, the best I saw Deontay Wilder box was when he fought Stiverne. Looked really good that night. Used a jab, boxed, turned Stiverne at times. Looked good, used a jab. And I thought at that point, that fight was the launching pad for Deontay Wilder's career. I really did. I thought Deontay Wilder was going to go on and really, really take the heavyweight division by storm. Instead, we've had follow-up fights against, Molina, where he got rocked into the Molina fight, did the chicken dance. We did Duhaupas fight. We had the Chris Arreola fight. Well, how the hell did he get a title shot? Never mind Stiverne. How the hell did Arreola get a title shot? Then we had the Gerald Washington fight. Oh, and of course, the Arthur Spilker fight, where people very, forget the size of Arthur Spilker. And Spilker, the southpaw, was outboxing Deontay for a large portion of the fight until that right hand. That right hand kind of like short circuits everyone's memory, and we just see the knockout. But what we forget is that Deontay Wilder was getting outboxed. What we also forget is that against Joe Washington, he was also getting outboxed until that right hand. So, as much as say Deontay Wilder is powerful and he's great and you know, he's got larger than life personality, Deontay Wilder has got his flaws, and you know, these are flaws that people need to be aware of. On the flip side, Bermane Stiverne, I've heard all the flaws about Bermane Stiverne. He's not active. He hasn't fought for X amount of years. Derek Rossi dropped him. Yeah, what did he do to deserve a fight? You know, he's too slow of foot, too slow of hand. He's you know, he got beat the first time. Poor excuses. He made excuses, and now the rematch. If Deontay Wilder did it the first time, they'll do it the same way the second time. Okay. And I hear all of those things. And there's some things Bermane Stiverne simply will not be able to change. I don't think anyway. He's not going to get taller overnight. He is what he is, 6'2", 6'2.5", or whatever. He's not suddenly going to start boxing like Muhammad Ali. Not going to happen. He's not going to start boxing like Mike Tyson, the way Tyson used to move his body and his head. We're not going to get that. We're not going to get those things with Stiverne. We're not going to get those things. So you know, I appreciate those things. What can Stiverne do? What's he going to do to get past the jab? I appreciate all the things people say, and I take it on board. And I understand totally understand what everybody's saying. But people don't get what I'm going to say here. Let me throw some things back. First of all, let's address the first fight. And let's go there. Let's just go there for a second. You Deontay Wilder fans out there, which don't want to hear it, and those people who are dismissive of Stiverne. If Stiverne was dehydrated, which in the medical report proves that he was, afterwards, that was no made-up thing, he was in hospital for days. If this report is true that Bermane Stiverne was dehydrated, then the man may have a point. Because if Deontay Wilder couldn't knock a dehydrated Bermane Stiverne out, that means a guy that's less than 100%. He's less than 50%. He's dehydrated. Then you've got no snap in your punches. If you've got no snap in your punches and generally a power puncher, it's no snap in your punches, unable to get into positions quick enough, sluggish. If all those things are correct, and you are dehydrated, and you took the biggest puncher in the division, arguably, Deontay Wilder, and took those big right hands and ate them for breakfast, and you weren't fit, and you weren't healthy, that should be an area of concern for Wilder fans. An area of concern. Because if Stiverne is fitter, and he's not dehydrated, and he actually is at 100%, and he hits Wilder, can Wilder stand up to that power? I take you back to the Harold Sconius fight, where he was dropped heavily in the second round, a fight that nobody can get on YouTube, or other fights where Deontay Wilder has been hurt by lesser punchers. Something for fight fans just to think about. This rematch isn't like 6 months down the line, or even a year down the line. This is 2 or 3 years later. This is a totally different fight. We haven't seen Bermane Stiverne since the Rossi fight. Agreed. But he got up and he beat Rossi. He got knocked down by Rossi, and he came back and he beat Rossi. And that was just after he got beat by Wilder, may I say. A poor fight, but he still won it. And if you hear the interview I did with Stiverne yesterday, it wasn't an interview, it was a talk. It was the first time I discovered and got inside and had like a brother-to-brother talk, and understood that it took him a long time to get over the loss to Deontay Wilder. Really took him a long time, and it affected him personally. So he opened up a lot and revealed a lot to me, and learned a lot more about his psyche. And obviously things about his psyche he didn't particularly like. As much as that's all said and done, Deontay Wilder is a one-handed fighter. Bermane Stiverne is a two-fisted fighter. He's knocked guys out with left hooks. He's knocked guys out with right hands. He's knocked guys out with body shots. He's knocked guys out with headshots. Now, if it's true that Stiverne has made the adjustments as well by getting better flexibility, better mobility, then we're going to see a totally different Bermane Stiverne to the guy that fought in the first fight. If Deontay Wilder is in and has trained for the same Bermane Stiverne that fought the first time round and that was a dehydrated fighter, then are there issues there, boxing fans? You know, you can only prepare for what you remember and what you faced before. Now, you're facing a guy that's going to hit you a lot harder. You're facing a guy that's going to come at you even more so and fight you better than he did when he was champion, and more, and potentially could be more hungry than you now than you were when you were challenger. He may have the hunger now that you had when you were challenger. These are things that fight fans are ignoring. So that speed of foot and hand, I said, if he's been dehydrated, that is something we need to pay attention to. Another thing, inactivity. Inactivity, yeah, that's a bad thing, inactivity. But he's been in the gym, Stiverne. Stiverne has been focused on this fight for God knows how long. So he's been a man possessed or obsessed with the Wilder rematch. He knew that the Ortiz fight wasn't going to happen. So when Wilder was preparing for Ortiz, when Wilder was thinking about Dillian White, when they were saying the Ortiz's fight is on, the Ortiz's fight is on, and Stiverne kept saying, no, the fight is not on. I'm going to fight Wilder. And he was in camp training for Wilder. Stiverne has been training and preparing specifically for Wilder for a long time. So he's preparing for one man that he knows very well. Has Deontay Wilder actually got any better? My argument is no, he hasn't. In fact, he's regressed. Regressed? Why? Because I think he's made adjustments to his body. I think he's made adjustments to his style because of the amount of injuries he's had to his body. Another thing, so he's not the same fighter. He's a fighter. He's a fighter with damaged goods. That's what Deontay Wilder is. He's an injured fighter. So he's not a better fighter. He is a fighter that was flawed already and now injured. So he's come back with injury, and we saw the Gerald Washington fight. He didn't look great. So there are some question marks that boxing fans need to address and look at for this fight. So, you know, it's not about, and somebody said, do you believe Bermane Stiverne's excuses? No, I don't believe the excuses. I believe the doctor's report. I believe the report, and I actually believe what happened afterwards. I believe the doctor's report. It's not an excuse. The man was dehydrated. The legendary Larry Holmes was ringside at the night of the fight. I've documented this so many times. And Larry Holmes himself said he was ringside, and he went to Don King and he tapped Don King and said, that boy is dehydrated. Get them to throw water in him. Get water down him as soon as possible. Larry Holmes said it, and that was during the fight. I know this because I was on the panel with in this corner, and they talked about this fight in this corner because their regular pundit was Larry Holmes, and Larry Holmes repeatedly said Stiverne was dehydrated. So if you all want to sleep on the fact that Stiverne wasn't dehydrated, well, let's see. Let's see come next Saturday night. I don't want to hear no excuses. Look, Wilder may go out there and do a number on Stiverne. He may do and put on a fantastic performance. And great for Deontay Wilder for doing that. But this is a totally different fight. And boxing fans need to look at this for a totally different fight. And you've got to ask yourself the question about Deontay Wilder's mental and spiritual preparation for this fight. He was down to fight Ortiz. The Ortiz fight got cancelled. There was talk about him fighting Dillian White. He was calling out Anthony Joshua. He was calling out Joseph Parker. He was calling out Tony Bellew. He was calling out for all the big fights. Anything but fight Bermane Stiverne. Anything but fight Bermane Stiverne. Anything but fight Bermane Stiverne. Is it true? Did he really dodge a bullet? Did Bermane Stiverne hit Wilder with his biggest and best shots? What happens if Stiverne connects now and he's not the dehydrated guy anymore? These are things that need to be asked, the questions that need to be answered. If Stiverne works the body more, what happens? These are all questions that boxing fans want to ignore or pay no attention to, or it doesn't suit their agenda because they want to hear Joshua versus Wilder. I said it before and I'll say it again. Upset is in the world, the world of the dictionary for a reason. Is Wilder's, you see, somebody says Wilder had a broken hand in the fight. Well, okay, if Wilder had a broken hand in the fight and Stiverne had a Wilder had a broken hand, which then justifies my point about why I don't think Wilder is a better fighter. He had a broken hand. Then you believe Wilder's excuse, but you don't believe Stiverne's excuse. So they were both injured one way or the other. Wilder got injured, got a broken hand because he throws those wild punches, right? I'm not surprised. He doesn't throw punches correctly, so I'm not surprised his hand's been broken. So if you want to accept that as an excuse, then okay, accept that as an excuse, but also accept the dehydration excuse. Now remember the difference. One's been injured with a broken hand and has had injury since that fight. The other guy has rested up well and hasn't been in wars and got beaten up fight after fight after fight. This is a fresh guy. This has danger written all over it. And plus, Deontay Wilder now's coming out and making statements that if the Stiverne beats me, I'm going to retire. And, I don't mind if another black man gets the title, but it's not going to happen. A lot of contradictory stuff. There's no talk about Deontay Wilder talking about. There's no talk about Deontay Wilder. Nobody focuses on what Wilder's saying. Somebody say, how can Stiverne say that Wilder doesn't punch hard when he had to drop on Wilder's knee in the second round? Did he stop him? Did he stop him? Did he stop him? Where did the fight go? 12 rounds. So the fight went 12 rounds. So that's a guy who's dehydrated. So if a guy's dehydrated, then there's the excuse. So, and what, he broke his hand. He's dehydrated in the second round. So he was dehydrated. So what do you want to say? Yeah, you see, this is what I'm talking about, the logic. You don't want to say that Stiverne had a problem, but you do want to say Wilder had a problem. So when did he break his hand in the first round? I don't know. Did he break his hand in the third round? I don't know. And that could just be an excuse for as to why Deontay Wilder didn't get the fight and didn't knock the guy out. Okay? Anyone can make excuses. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't stop him in the first fight, and that's that. That's logic. It didn't happen. So that's it. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that people don't want to pay attention to. Is Deontay Wilder fully focused on this fight? Has he had enough sparring and training to prepare for Bermane Stiverne? Is he fully aware of what he's facing in this rematch? I don't think he is. I really don't think. I think Deontay Wilder is prepared for the first Bermane Stiverne fight. He's looked at the first Stiverne fight and said, okay, I'm going to fight that. I'm going to beat that Stiverne. And that's the Stiverne that I think a lot of people are expecting to turn up. That's the Stiverne I think a lot of people are expecting to turn up. And I can't believe it. Because I think the Stiverne is going to turn up. It's going to be a lot better Stiverne than a lot of people are expecting. I hope there's no excuses this time. No, I don't think there will be any excuses. And if I think a lot of people look at things from the outside. For example, I'll give you an example of things. Now, you can have two perspectives. You can have the perspective where you're a sheep and you just listen to what you're being told and you accept it as truth, or you go and do your own research. Now, I don't accept what I've been told. I go and do research. Most of the time I try and do research where I can, where it's possible. And I know a lot of people use a regular popular website to get their boxing information, but we have proven time and time again that website's information has been inaccurate because we get our information from the horse's mouth as opposed to getting information from some other source. Okay, we get the information before the boxing sites sometimes get it. And that's one of the things you get when you have close relationships with fighters. And so, like, the thing about Prince and Dubin, when they had that arrangement with the attorneys, that was hogwash. That's complete hogwash. Stiverne had Prince on side way before that. James Prince was with Stiverne years ago. So, I mean, in terms of friendships and stuff. So that's a lot of hogwash. The bottom line is this. I think it's a better fight than a lot of people are expecting. I think also, to have James Ali Bashir in your corner is a key point. I think Bashir will have taught Stiverne a lot in the time that they've been working together. I'm happy to put the two guys together. I'm happy that, you know, that Stiverne and Bashir worked together for this fight, and he had some real top sparring. So it's going to be a great fight. A great fight. The question marks are, how much has Wilder regressed in terms of his ability to move around the ring, his ability to box? How much adjustments have been made? I mean, even look at those exercises he was doing, that weight lifting machine where he was punching with it. I mean, his technique was dreadful on there. But people look at that and say, well, that's okay. We'll give that a slide. You can't keep sliding, making slides in boxing for fighters' flaws. Eventually, they get exposed. So, for me, I wish both guys the best of luck for this fight. I really do. I hope the best Deontay Wilder turns up. I hope the best Stiverne turns up. And for the sake of Bermane Stiverne, I hope he turns up in fighting shape. I hope he turns up more flexible. I hope he turns up fully fit and can show the world what he's really about. I really hope so. And in some ways, I hope he does win the title. And I'll tell you why I hope he wins the title. Because it'll prove a lot of boxing experts wrong. A lot of people over YouTube wrong. You know? And it will show that the underdog, the guy that everybody, you know, the guy that a lot of people just had negative things to say about, came back and did well. Listen, in life, there are things that you do wrong and you want to put them right. Not just in boxing, in life. You want to get the opportunity to put things right, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be at work, whether it be, you know, just to put things right. You didn't do something right the first time. You didn't feel you got a fair shot the first time. You get a second chance. And the amount of people that are so dismissive, if in their own waking lives, in their day-to-day lives, that they didn't get a second shot, whether it be with their girlfriend or their wife or their day-to-day life or in the workplace, you made a mistake. Sorry, mate. No chance for you. Bye-bye. So, you know, it was written in the contract that Stiverne would get a rematch with Wilder. So he's exercising that rematch clause. That's all that's happened. So people can say what they want. As far as I'm concerned, I keep it real. I keep it 100% real. At the end of the day, I hope both guys, first at the end of the fight, both come out of the ring healthy and well and can go back to their families. Stiverne's got a family. Wilder's got a family. I hope they both go back. Hope they give us an entertaining fight. And you know what? It could end up being fight of the year. There's so much chemistry between these two guys that, you know, the first fight, I'll put it down as a write-off. I think the second fight's going to be a lot better and it will be a lot more explosive. However way it goes. When I talk to James Ali Bashir, this is a guy that knows about boxing, not a guy that sits behind a keyboard and types. The guy who knows about boxing sat down and told me, he said, listen, this fight goes no longer than 7 rounds. No longer than 7 rounds for either guy. Stiverne's got what it takes to beat Wilder because he's wild and he's reckless. He said that to me a year ago. He repeated those same sentiments about a week ago. And James Ali Bashir even went into more depth since I got Stiverne and Bashir together. He said even more so. People talk out their side without doing the facts. Sconia's dropped Wilder hard. So if those guys can drop Wilder, Stiverne can keep him there. There's no doubt, absolutely no doubt whatsoever. If Wilder got knocked out by Stiverne, I wouldn't be surprised. If Stiverne got knocked out by Wilder, I would be more surprised. I'd be more surprised if Wilder actually knocked Stiverne out because of the fact that I think the first time around he was genuinely dehydrated. So there you have it. A different look at the fight. Is Wilder's mind in the job? Is he looking elsewhere? Is he distracted? Does he really have the heart to still be in the world of boxing? Does he feel he's getting the credit he deserves? Is he a patient man? Can he mentally hold it together as champion in his toughest fight now since the first fight with Stiverne? Can he hold it together? Or does he actually know his time is up? Because he seems to be talking a lot of double Dutch to me at the moment. He does not sound to me like a man that's about the business. The press conference will be this next Thursday, just before the weigh-in on the Friday. So it's going to be interesting. Stiverne says hold tight and look forward to Thursday. Because he's got something planned on Thursday. I don't know what he's got planned for the press conference. So we'll have to wait and see. But there you have it. Both guys You know, this is a totally different fight. Completely forget the first fight. This is the second fight. This is 2 years on, a totally different fight. And I expect something totally different to happen. Either way, I expect something totally different to happen in this fight. Either Wilder knocks Stiverne out, or Stiverne knocks Wilder out. That's where I see it. This fight doesn't go to 12 rounds. Okay, those are my thoughts. It's a bit lengthy, but that's the way I kind of see it. And I don't think the fight goes past 7 rounds either. I think it's going to be that explosive. So those are my thoughts. Thank you all so much for listening. It may not have been what people want to hear. And I do want to see the fight. I do want to see the fight, and I do want to see closure. Closure for Stiverne's career. Closure for Wilder's career, in the sense that Wilder can say, look, I beat him once, I beat him again. He was fully fit, he was da-da-da, let's move on. And he has closure, and he can move on with his life. And for Stiverne, closure, if he was unfit and he was dehydrated, to come back and become champion of the world again. And listen, if he becomes world champion again, what will the boxing world have to say for themselves? All these channels, what will they do? Will they then turn around and say Deontay Wilder was a bum? Are they going to say Deontay Wilder was chinny? Are they going to say Deontay Wilder wasn't good enough? He was crap? Because if you say that stuff now, if you say that stuff after he gets beat, when you were worshipping him and praising him and calling him the best thing since sliced bread, if your channel was doing that, and then he gets clocked by Stiverne, who was a guy who hadn't fought for 2 years, and bloody bloody blah, and bloody bloody blah, and they didn't want to see the fight, what would you have to say about that? How will you get yourself out of the mess you've got yourself into? That's what I want to hear. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm looking forward to November the 4th. It can't come soon enough. This is BWTM Sports, once again, being live and direct and honest and truthful and logical. I'm out. Thanks for watching.